We still have some lights at least. Well guys, welcome back to the off-grid garage here from, well, from flooded Australia. You may have heard this in the news. We have major flooding here in the area where I live. It all started yesterday with lots of rain coming in, and by now we are completely cut off, so we cannot leave the property anymore. We've got water in the garage, and also here under the battery shelf. Yeah. It is raining since last night. The whole valley is flooded now. Most roads are cut off and flooded. There was so much water coming from the sky, unbelievable. And I thought it would be a great intro for today's video. You know, driving to Ipswich, picking up these bus bars and yeah, picking up all these bus bars here and this folded aluminium angle, and then transition over to the actual video. But now, everything has changed since. But yeah, and even here, the road I'm living in, it is completely flooded by now. And you may still hear the rain here on the roof, so I need to speak up a little bit. And to top things, to make things even worse, we have also lost internet connection since last night, 7 p.m. No connection anymore. I tried several modems and logged a fault with the service provider this morning, but they don't know when they can send a technician in to look after the connection. So I could be without internet connection for a couple of days now. I'm not sure. I still keep recording the videos here, guys, for you, and we watch them all later once we get online again, right? Yeah, yesterday I made 0.35 kilowatt hours the whole day. 0.3 kilowatt hours. It is a tiny bit better, 0.42 today, but okay, so finally, guys, in today's video we wanna set up these two inverters here and configure the Multiplus to see how we can make this work here. And as I told you before, there are a few options how we can do this actually, because usually the multi is connected to the grid here and has a transfer switch. Here you can see the diagram. There are two transfer switches in between, and then we have AC out and AC out 2 with a relay as well. But because we are the off-grid garage, we certainly don't have a grid here. So my idea was now, well, can this inverter not simulate the grid? Can we not have this inverter here as the input for the Multiplus? And then the Multiplus adds additional power on top of what the Phoenix can deliver. And this would exactly be one solution how we can set up the system. It would mean the Phoenix inverter would run all the time and supply power to our garage and to our loads all the time. So the Multiplus then monitors the situation of the Phoenix, and if our load exceeds a certain threshold, which we can set up in the Multiplus, it will add additional power to support this load. So the main of the load will be supplied by the Phoenix, and the Multiplus will add additional power as needed. The downside of this is both inverters would be running all the time. The Multiplus in standby, and the Phoenix would do all the work up until it's 3 kVA. And the alternative setup could be, we have the Multiplus running all the time and delivers power up to 4.7 kilowatts to our load. And if there is more load needed, it automatically turns on the Phoenix. So most of the time this one will just stay off here, and only if additional power is required, this one will automatically turn on, started by the Multiplus. And this is actually not hard to do. As you can see, we have this little jumper bridge in here, So this is our remote wire. Usually this bridge is installed in the inverter, so it turns on by a push on this button here. But we can certainly replace this little wire bridge here with the contacts of our multifunction relay inside the Multiplus. And then we should be able to set a certain threshold when we want this one to kick in as well and support the Multiplus. And this is exactly what we are trying today. So considering these two options we have, I would probably go with option number 2, having the Multiplus running most of the time, and only if I charge the vehicle, for example, and the pool pumps are running, it can request additional 3 kVA from the Phoenix inverter. So in this case, the Phoenix would act as a generator. If there is more power needed than the Multiplus can deliver, it will turn on the generator for support. So now, as you know, all these smart devices from Victron have built-in Bluetooth, and you can just use the Victron Connect app on your mobile phone and can configure these devices. The Multiplus is not such a smart device and doesn't have any Bluetooth built in. It is only using the VE bus connection. Yeah. And this blue connection comes into the MK3 to USB adapter here, which at the moment plugs into our Raspberry. So we can plug in this MK3 adapter into a laptop or our computer and have direct access to the settings of the Multiplus then. But I want to show you a different method today, because you can configure a Multiplus remotely, completely remotely. Yeah, well, this is actually what I wanted to show you, but because of the lack of the internet, we cannot do that, because we don't have access to the Victron VRM portal at the moment. Because usually you go into your device list and download the whole configuration of the Multiplus onto your device, wherever you are. You don't need to be here, you don't need to be in the house, you don't need to be in this country, you can be anywhere. You can download the full configuration of the device onto your machine and then open this file in your VE configure software. Okay, so first of all, you want to download the VE configure software from the Victron website. I link this all down below and on my website as well. And you just do the usual installation, next, okay. And you will find the VE config symbol on your desktop of your computer. Not sure if they have a version for Macintosh as well. And then you can download the configuration file of your Multiplus from the VRM portal, and it packs all this information of the Multiplus into one file. And it looks similar to this file then, with a long number and a weird name. So what you want to do is just double click on it, and it opens this file in the VE configure software. And this is basically the default file now from our Multiplus, because I've never logged into it before, never changed any settings or configured anything. This is as the Multiplus was delivered. And in the general, we can find the system frequency 50 to 60 Hertz, and also the Shore limit. And this is exactly the threshold we can set up in the Multiplus for the Phoenix inverter. See, it sits by default on 50 amps. This is the maximum that the internal transfer switches can do. And we can potentially set this one up to 10 amps. That would mean it will allow the Phoenix to work up until 10 amps, and then additional power will come from the Multiplus. And whenever you do a change in the VE configure, it changes the color of this item as well, so you know which parameters you have actually changed already. Yeah, and this little box here, overruled by remote, is only if you have a remote control for your Multiplus, like you usually have on boats and caravans. And then you can set your AC input current limit with a dial knob in the cockpit or in the back of your RV. So we don't need this, I'll leave it as it is. The next tab is the grid connection. Well, this is an easy one for us because we don't have any grid connection here at all, we are off grid. But you can see there are all the different countries in here which the Multiplus supports, and you just select the right country and then it handles all the grid connections itself as per the regulations in this country. So no change there. We go into the inverter settings, and here we can set the output voltage. The rain gets louder, as well as the ground relay. So again, the Multiplus has a built-in MEN link. That means the neutral and the ground are internally bonded with a relay. As soon as the Multiplus connects to an external source, it will open this contact. And we can also see the power assist feature is already activated in the Multiplus. And we can configure the low voltage shutdown, the restart, and a pre-alarm. And we are going to the charger tab right away now. And usually, as soon as the Multiplus connects to an external energy source, like a generator or the grid, marina connection, or a plug on the campground, it would start charging your batteries. Well, in our case, we don't have a grid, and we certainly don't want the Multiplus to charge the batteries when the power comes from our Phoenix, because the Phoenix gets the power from the same battery. The Multiplus would then start charging, and we would run in a circle. We would just burn energy. But this is the location where you can set all your absorption, your float voltage, your charge currents. This is basically the same as in the solar charge controllers. You can set everything up in here. And I think these settings here actually override the settings in your solar charge controllers. You can also load different battery types in here. So it's a very similar setup to what you have in the solar charge controllers from Victron. But in this case, we turn off the charger altogether. Okay, here in the Virtual Switch tab, we now have a very important and very powerful feature of the Multiplus. We can now link this virtual switch to our internal relay. And this is the default setting for the Multiplus, drive the multifunction relay. And for some reason, the switch configuration is inverted by default. So I would always recommend untick this one. And then you have the right mindset, you know, on means close, off means open for the relay. And you can set certain parameters for the relay to turn on now. If the load is higher than a certain threshold, turn the relay on. So we can put 10 seconds in here, and then this field activates, and we can say if we pull more than 3000 watts from the Multiplus for 10 seconds, it will start the Phoenix as a support device. And you could do the same here for voltage levels as well. And this is for different functionalities. For example, you can just connect an external charger to the system if your voltage of the battery gets low. We can also turn on the Phoenix if we get a temperature warning, or a low battery warning, an overload alarm, or if the DC input ripple gets too high, so the load on the inverter is very high then. And these features all make sense if you have an external power source. But because we are powering everything from the same battery, it would not make sense to do that. And here in the next tab, you can define your turn-off points for the relay and the Phoenix inverter in our case. So here we can say if our load goes under 2500 watts for 30 seconds, we can turn off the Phoenix, and the Multiplus is then able to handle the load just by itself. And here in the last tab, we can set certain parameters. So we can leave the relay on even the conditions are not met anymore for a certain amount of time. And this makes sense if you have a real generator in there. You don't want to turn it off just for a few seconds. If you get a peak overload situation of the inverter, you want to keep it running for a couple of minutes to warm up and actually supply some power to your system. So we could set this one to 60 seconds here. And here in the last main tab, there are the assistants, which we cannot use because we are using the virtual switch already. So the assistants in the Multiplus are a very powerful feature. And I actually want to use the assistants rather than the virtual switch. So what I want to do is I want to turn off the virtual switch here altogether. Bang. And now if I go back into our assistants tab, we will see we have now the assistants available. And we can just click on the add assistant and then go to our relay. This is what we are going to program. And I want to use the generator start and stop assistant. It is now loaded into our configuration, and we start the assistant. And it goes to our welcome screen. And here we can exactly now set parameters pretty much the same as before, just a bit more defined. And this is also an assistant you want to load if you want to program your AC out 2 of the Multiplus. For example, if your battery is full, turn on AC out 2 and your water heater kicks in and takes all the energy from your solar system then. because the batteries are almost full. They won't take much more energy anyway. But in our case we want to use the relay, so we use the option 1 here and say use the primary programmable relay. We go further and we want to say close the relay contact to start the generator. The generator in our case is our Multiplus, right? If you have a real generator, it would make sense to start it as per battery voltage. If your battery voltage goes down, goes low, you want to start the generator to recharge your batteries, right? This is the main purpose of this whole setup. But in our case, we want to make this load dependent, because we want to have an additional power input of the system if the Multiplus cannot cope anymore. So we select the first option, start on load conditions. And here we can program now the start threshold and the stop threshold for our Multiplus. Here again we can say if the load output is more than 3500 watts for 10 seconds, start the Phoenix. If it goes below 2000 watts for 60 seconds, stop the Phoenix. And this is a very important feature. In our case, the shore power comes from the Phoenix. The Phoenix is also our generator. And we certainly don't want to turn it off as soon as we get power from the Phoenix. It would cancel itself out immediately. So we have to select here the first option. The generator is not stopped by AC in. And this was the programming of our assistant for the generator start stop. We can click here on the summary button again, and this gives us all the parameters again which we have just programmed into our Multiplus. So, and this is basically the whole programming we need to do for our situation here. If we want to have the Multiplus running all the time, and only if we go over a certain threshold of load output, we start the Phoenix as well to support the whole system. And to save your file, you just close the program and you say yes, and there you go. This is our file we have just modified. So all the modification sits now in this file. And now if you are remote, you can go into the Victron VRM portal again, go in the device list and upload this file to your Multiplus. And also if you want to check your settings again before you upload them to the Multiplus, just open the file again you have just saved, and it should have all the changed parameters already set now. We've got the 10 amps here as the AC input limit, and we have also the assistant installed and configured. So, and here are the contacts of our relay in the Multiplus. So we can connect our cables to the NO, NC and COM terminals of the relay. And because the relay is not programmed at the moment, we should have continuity between the COM port and NC, which is a normally closed contact. Okay, so we should have continuity. Yep, there we go. And the other one is not connected. Okay, so we would need to connect the Phoenix remote on-off switch between the COM and the NO, normally open. And if the relay turns on internally, we have a pass-through between COM and NO then. And then we just take these two wires here as our test wires and see if it actually works. So we have one going into the COM port. So, and the other side here is connected to our plug, which goes into the Phoenix inverter. So we have now connected the Multiplus to the Phoenix, and this not only from the AC side but also from this relay contact. So basically when this relay closes, it turns on the Phoenix inverter. I still have the breaker off here, so we don't have any AC connections between these two. I just want to see if the Multiplus actually is able to turn this one on with the relay we have just programmed. I have now connected my computer here with a USB cable to the MK3 adapter, which is then using a normal LAN cable, a network cable, to connect to the Multiplus. I'm really terribly sorry for all this noise here in the garage. There's nothing I can do about it. Okay, so now we open our VE configure program, click on port selection and click on the communication port our MK3 adapter is connected to. In our case it's the COM6 USB serial port. And this will now query the Multiplus and gives us all the details here on the screen again. And there we go. And because we are now connected directly to the Multiplus, we can now see a live view of the AC input and AC output, as well as the DC voltage, the DC ripple and the amps. Okay, so for test purposes I have now changed the parameters in the Assistant to turn the Phoenix inverter on if we have a load of more than 1000 watts for 10 seconds and turn it off again if we go below 500 watts. And also I want to set this one here to 1 amp. And after we have made all the changes, we need to send these information now back from the program to the inverter. And the Multiplus may restart after you send this back to it. Because I read this before, I have connected our computer to the Blue Yeti. So it's not running from the Multiplus. Okay, we send the information back. We can only send the modified data. That's good. Okay, that's all done now. No restart required. Okay, and this is basically the whole programming of our multi. So we now have to apply a load more than 1000 watts to the Multiplus, and then it should turn on the Phoenix inverter. Okay, let's see if this works. So I have now set up our power supply here to charge our other battery bank we have set up here in a 48 volt configuration. So this will be our load, and I can just change the amps here on the power supply to regulate this. And on full power this one should pull around 1400 watts. So I have now logged into the Phoenix inverter here, and we can see it says state remote switch off. Well, we have disconnected this little wire bridge and replaced it with our relay contact of the multi. So the inverter is on, but it's not doing anything because it's technically off. Okay, so here comes the first test now. So we're currently pulling 138 watts from our battery, and I'm starting now the power supply here with 1 amp. There we go. So we are now charging this battery bank with 1 amp, and you can see 205 watts. So I'm increasing to 5 amps here, and we should see an increase in power. 428 going up to 9 amps, 680 watts, 11 amps, 1400. We are over 1000. Let's see what happens here after 10 seconds. Oh god, I'm a bit scared. I should have used the light bulb. It turns it on. Did you see that? It is on. It is on now. It works. Our cabling works. So because we were over 1000 watts, it turns on the Phoenix. It starts the generator. Cool. It is still not connected. I'm too scared. Yes, and it says inverting now. Okay, let's do the opposite and go below 500. So the power consumption has now decreased to 800 watts, but we set the 500 watts as the turn off power threshold. Power goes down, 600, one more, 500, 502, 440. Ah shit, we have to wait now for a minute. Okay, let's wait for a minute. Just want to see, yeah, we are still under 500. Okay, this will turn off the Phoenix inverter, hopefully after 60 seconds. And it's still on. See if it turns off at some stage. A minute can be so long, especially when you need to pee. There! Remote switch off. I could hear the click in the multi and it switched it off. It works, guys, it works. Oh, that is very exciting. That is very exciting. I'm totally scared to use this breaker now to link the output of this one to the input of this one. Okay, let's do it. It is off at the moment, so nothing can happen. And if something happens, we are not in this area here. If it burns down now, we can watch from here. Okay, so 138 watts. And we turn on the power supply again. Increase the power. 400. 945. 1 amp more. 1 amp more. It has turned it on. So the Multiplus will now synchronize onto the Phoenix inverter. Yeah, I can hear this one humming. Oh yeah, 705 VA. That's a little bit a lot. Because I set only 1 amp in the Multiplus. So it should allow only around 220 watts from the Phoenix, and the Multiplus should do the rest. But we still have an output of 1028 watts, and around 700 watts are coming from the Phoenix. And here on the screen we can also see it says now assisting. So now the Multiplus is actually assisting the Phoenix to deliver the load. That is so exciting, guys. It is amazing how it works. Okay, let's go down to 10 amps. And now it sits on pass-through. Look at this. Doesn't do anything anymore. So it let the inverter, it let the Phoenix do all the work. And the light has also stopped flashing. By the way, you can see the lights here on the screen as well. These lights are live, what you would see here in the garage. That is amazing. Okay, let's increase the power again. We're now at... now it's assisting. 12 amps. It is already assisting. Oh shit, the irrigation pump just kicked in. That's why. We are pulling 30 amps from the battery. Okay, now we are back to normal. It is still assisting. Let's crank it up to 21 amps. This is full power from my power supply here. 1.5 kilowatts. And here you can see we are pulling 940 watts from the Phoenix. Something is not working as it's supposed to be, because I told the Multiplus assist above 1 amp. Okay, let's have a look here in the settings. Here's our Multiplus. It says assisting as well. The input current limit is on 6 amps, but we set it on 1 amp. Let's see if we can change it here. Oh yes, I can change it in here. Okay, let's put it down to 1 amp and click on OK, and it goes back to 6 amps again. I wonder why that is. 7 amps. See, it takes over 7 amps. Obviously I cannot go lower than 6. 5.5. No, 6 seems to be the lowest we can set in the Multiplus. Bummer. Well, it is fine for our system here, because the Phoenix can deliver 1.3. The Phoenix can deliver 3 kVA, so 6 amps that's totally good. Okay, then let's set it to 10 amps. Because in reality it would sit on 10 amps, right? At least. And now we can see here, this is the Phoenix inverter. Okay, let's crank this up to 13 and see. Yep, that works. See, the state went from assisting to pass through, and now only the Phoenix inverter is delivering all the power to our load. That is insane. Okay, let's turn on the irrigation pump and see what's happening. Okay, I triggered the irrigation pump, and now we can see the Multiplus is assisting, and we are pulling maximum of 1800 watts from the Phoenix. That is good. That is perfect. This is probably what I would set it to. So 13 amps seems to be the correct way. We need to figure this out later on. But now the Multiplus is assisting until the irrigation pump turns off, load reduces, and then the Phoenix takes over as it should. It should. There we go, pass through. Multiplus doesn't do anything, let the Phoenix inverter do everything. So that works perfectly. That is amazing. Oh my god. It works. It works. Okay, let's reduce the power. So we are running only 100 watts. See, at the moment it says mains are on. And then the inverter should come on, and this one does the whole job. Holy shit! Woo. Yeah, this one is off, this one is on. That was the internal relay. And we could also see the lights flickering, because the changeover time is around 20 milliseconds for this device. So normally not critical for computers and other devices, but we could see the light flickering for a second when it actually happened. And now again the Multiplus is the only device and has turned off our generator. Now I can understand why it makes this loud click sounds inside, because of the two transfer switches here which are disconnecting our generator, and then it turns on, and then at the same time it turns on the MEN link relay again, the bonding between ground and neutral. So, and this is what we can hear. I thought this is weird. It sounded like the relay is not turning on correctly and it needs 2 attempts or something. No, there are 2 different relays. Disconnects AC and reconnects the bonding for the ground and neutral. And I just remember I have read this in the manual. And it does the same before it connects to the generator. It turns off the MEN link, and then afterwards right away it connects to the generator. And in our case this one has an MEN link already built in. That's why this one can turn off, or should turn off. It needs to turn off actually. And if this is running as a standalone device as now, it turns on the MEN link inside again. This is what it's supposed to do. Okay, so now the big question is, can the Multiplus deliver more than 3 kVA in PowerAssist mode? So for this test, we will reduce our input current limit again down to 5.5. I think 6 is the minimum. Yeah, 6 is the minimum for some reason. I need to look this up. Maybe there's a way to change this. But it would be only for testing anyway, so it doesn't really matter. What we can also do is now we can tell the system here we now have a generator. So it doesn't show us the AC input all the time. It will show us a generator here. So we have to go into the settings. Settings. There was something. Generator start stop, there it is. Now this is something different. Okay, where is that? Let me do some search in the menus here and find it. Okay guys, I found it now. It is in the system setup. Of course, we're setting up the system. So we go in here, and then we've got our AC input here, which is not available. But we now have an AC input available. So we change this one here to generator. So you've got you can change it to grid, or you can change it to shore power as well. Generator. Let's do the generator one. The symbol hasn't changed here. Okay, whatever. Okay, the only problem now is our battery is fairly low. We've got only 51.7 volts on the battery. So if we do a high power test now, discharge test, we may trigger a low voltage disconnect or something. I don't know. And I don't know how much power we can actually draw from the battery. But it doesn't really matter. We just want to see if the Multiplus actually delivers more than 3 kVA on top of what is coming in to the AC input. Start our power supply here again. This charges with 21 amps into our battery bank, which is 1.5 kilowatt. it will start our generator, and it should recognize as mains on. Yeah, you could hear the relay clicking again. And now it is already assisting. But I think we cannot actually see how much power it assists. We now can see the generator. The generator, this is our Phoenix inverter, right? So the difference of generator and AC load must be what the Multiplus adds on top. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, what we are doing now is we are going to charge the vehicle here as well and see how much the difference will be from our Phoenix to our overall load. Okay, let's do the lowest one first. Start charging. I just don't hope we are losing. Yeah, we need to watch the amps here coming from the battery, because solar is pretty much, well, 100 watts from solar. We need to remember we've got a 100 amp fuse inside the battery box, and the circuit breaker for the battery sits on 90 amps. But it should be okay for doing the test. So at the moment we are charging with 5 amps, and 16 would be the maximum, so we can really crank it up. And we can see here on the screen 1.2 is coming from the Phoenix and the rest is coming from the Multiplus. So this one plus 3000 should be 4.2. Okay, crank up the charging speed here. Let's go to 8. 3000. 3.5. This is already 70 amps. Holy shit. And 49 volts. So we are going into low. Okay, let's go 2 more. 81. Yeah, see, this stays now there at 6 amps for the Phoenix, but this one is going up. Here we go. Low voltage, of course. 4 kilowatts we are pulling. We are going up 2 more. 4.4. So this is more than 3 kilowatt already. Going up 1 more. We are close to 100 amps here. Oh shit. We're pulling 100 amps from the bloody battery. Because there's no solar. 4.5 kilowatts. Okay, 1 more. One more. Do we see the 5? Do we see 5 kilowatt? 1 more. This is the maximum the car can charge. 4.8. I think we've got low voltage, that's why 100 amps, 104 amps. I'm not sure if this is more than 5.5. There we go, 5.5 now. So definitely the Multiplus can output more than 3 kVA. And we've got the overload voltage here or something. There was just a little pop-up coming up. Yeah, okay, I'm turning down the car charging again. But this is the proof it can output more than the 3 kilowatt, which I always thought is the limit of the Multiplus in power assist mode. But obviously not. It can output all the power it has. So, and in this case, I would allow the Phoenix inverter to power 13 amps. Yeah, from 6 to 13. And if we go back now, we should see, yes. See, our generator delivers now 2.5 kilowatts. And now if I crank up the car again to 16 amps, we should have no problem because the Phoenix does not go into overload protection mode. Yeah, 5.5, easy, easy, 120 amps. This will trigger something soon. I just go down again. That is too scary. That works amazing. I can't believe it works. That is insane. How good is that? There's still the fan running. Right guys, this is so amazing. I'm so happy this works. And I just want to say a big thank you to Andy from Munich here for helping me out with this setup. He sent me tons of emails with explanations how this all could work and how the settings should be in the inverter. I have changed it a little bit up. I think I have simplified the settings now a bit because I'm not using any other assistant. But as we have seen, it works like a treat. The Multiplus starts the Phoenix as a generator, and then together they can supply big loads. That is amazing. So now I need to play around with the settings a bit and see how much power I can get out of the Phoenix and how much power this one can put on top of it. But for this we need to set up our second battery bank, because we really need 2 battery banks in parallel at least to power these 2 inverters now. There was 120 amps, guys. Oh yeah, it is a bit warm. But that's alright. Totally amazing. Okay guys, I link all the details down below and on my website as well. I probably make a dedicated page at some stage on my website and explaining the steps again, how to piggyback the inverters together. Guys, this is not limited to the Victron inverter here. We can use the Xia inverter or any other off-grid inverter here for this scenario. The Multiplus doesn't care what kind of AC input it gets. It can just add its own power on top of it. Okay guys, so far this very successful video from today, despite the rain and we are cut off and we don't have internet. So I'm not sure when I upload this video here. And I need to find a better control cabling, right? As always guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your great support here on the channel, for all your help to make this all a reality. Yeah, this is a combined community effort. My hands and your knowledge have made all this possible. So thank you so much for all your assistance, all your help here. This is amazing. This is a very good outcome. I'm very happy. I will calibrate a SPED now and have a very good night's sleep. And until the next video guys, you stay charged, stay safe, and thank you again for watching and your support. See you then. Bye bye. I cannot believe it just works. That is amazing.